Hello, and thanks for joining me again on another making of video. I have been very lucky this week with the song that I have chosen. I am about to tell you a little more about it in a second, but just let me make a small pause there because before we jump into the song, let me tell you a little about. You know that I always tell you how I fell in love with the songs, then I share with you the recording if I have it at hand or I look it for somewhere in the internet so that you are familiar with what was the singer or the version that I heard that made me fall in love and finally decide to bring it to the 50 music postcards collection. However, this time I cannot tell how is it that I learned about this song. And that is the reason why I cannot share any video or any other recording about the song because I really don't know. I as I was looking for it, I noticed that I didn't have it in my audio files. I looked for it in videos for some versions in YouTube, and I didn't find it either. Then I went through the collection of. If you have already subscribed to this channel, you may have already noticed that I have a still small but meaningful number of recordings of Mexican singers at a series of recitals that used to take place at the Palacio del Arzobispado in Mexico City. So I was thinking that maybe one of those videos that I have uploaded almost 14 years ago had the song there, but it wasn't there either. So, in a few words, I really don't know. I just have in my head the sound of a female voice. I'm not even sure if it is a soprano or a mezzo or what is it exactly. The way the voice sounds. So I only remember the phrase where it says, "Sabes porque mi dulce bien." Sabes por qué. Pero we are about to get there in a second. Um, and that's all I have. So I knew I liked this song, only not being aware of where I heard it and any other type of the circumstances, and that I looked for it in YouTube. And to be sincere, I really didn't find something that I would like to share with you today. So that means that just as in the previous postcard, we will devote the entire time of this video to going through the score and some notes on my thoughts around how it has to be played. So enough talk. This is the song that I chose and that I assume that you may have already heard it in the postcard video. It's called Tengo Nostalgia de Ti. There is a subtitle of the song that is called Sabes porque. Sabes porque, as a question. And I have a tendency to believe that, in fact, there's more people who know it from the subtitle than by the title itself. Mainly because, not because the Tengo Nostalgia de Ti is a phrase that is not retained in people's heads, but I think that the phrase Sabes por qué, and you will find it soon, tends to be retained more in the memory of people. Well, that's where the title and subtitle we have that the composer is Tata Nacho, an amazing Mexican composer. I wrote a couple of lines in the description of the postcard video. You may go there and read about him. Unfortunately, as it is the case for most of Mexican singers and composers, there is very little about their biography. There are not enough elements to have a wider idea of how their life was, what was the inspiration of their compositions, and all of that. It's very interesting, the very little that you can find about him, how he started in Mexico, then sent to Europe, coming back to Mexico as a mistake, then sent back to Europe, and then coming back to Mexico, and how he was one of the pillars that built the Society of Authors in Mexico. So if you are interested in learning about him, please go there. There are also a few more songs that we will be including in this cycle from Tatanacho. So this will not be the last time you hear about him. And now let's get into the song. Uh, Notice, and if I am, I'm trying to find a way to explain it. You know, it is always very difficult to me to try to explain. Not only because, as I have said before, I am a lousy translator, but also because sometimes trying to put in words what is usually felt for singing can be challenging. So the song opens telling us "Tengo nostalgia de ti." Of course, the title of the song. I will read the the lyrics in Spanish, and then we'll try to explain a little before we jump into the interpretation. So, tengo nostalgia de ti, amada mía. Llevo tristeza en el alma, tenaz y cruel. Hay una lágrima roja en mi pobre corazón. ¿Sabes por qué? Mi dulce bien, porque sin ti, sin tu cariño, no sé vivir. That's simple. Then, on the repetition, you go, second line. Tengo una extraña amistad con la tristeza y es mi sola compañera la soledad. Es el llanto de mis ojos más amargo que la hiel. ¿Sabes por qué, mi dulce bien? Porque sin ti, sin tu cariño, no sé vivir. And despite the fact that there are not too many words, there is lots of meaning in it. Let me try to put it into an understandable translation. Start saying "Tengo nostalgia de ti," which is sort of "I am longing for you. I really miss you much." In French, you would say something like "Tu me manques beaucoup." And then we understand that the person is sad, very sad, because there is I don't like the word nostalgia for this case. I like more like missing missing someone. So I really miss you much, or this nostalgia is because of you, my beloved one. I have this sadness in my soul, tenaz y cruel, which means that is persistent and cruel at the same time. There is a red tear in my poor heart. And you know why? Sabes por qué could be translated. And you know why? My sweet love, because without you, without your love, I cannot live. The repetition then goes to I have this weird friendship. I'm not really. I don't think I'm doing a very good translation in here. But what it means by "tengo una extraña amistad" is some sort of surprise, because besides understanding that he has, and by this it doesn't really mean friendship. It has a full understandable meaning in Spanish, but I think translating into English, it loses somehow the deepness of this phrase in the native language, because in the native language it means, it really doesn't mean that he is a friend of sadness, as we understand friends, but in this one, friend means that he's so very close, he's so very used to being a friend or being one with sadness. I remember that when I sang it in the Quale cycle, that you may find it in the blog if you've ever gone to the website, opera en primera persona.weebly.com. If you've ever been there, there's the recording of this song, and I pretty sure that I kept it in the notes of the blog. That this song is, from my perspective, sung by a very depressive person. From my perspective, there are cues in here that it is not only that he misses someone, but words like when he says that he's very close, or to having or he has a very close relationship with sadness, it really means it's not only because of her. I mean, it can be said that it is excuse that he's sad because of her, but the phrase that he's so used to being with one with sadness tells us of a life that it's very gray itself. And he also says that sadness is my only companionship, this loneliness. And it is the tear in my eyes, even we have amargo, bitter. The tears in my eyes are bitter than the. I'm not sure how to translate yel. I think this is the first time that I see it, but it makes reference to a word of a liquid that is very very bitter. And you know why, my sweet love? Because without you, without your love, I cannot live. If we adhere to my to my feeling that this is a very song by a very depressive person, when he raps the song saying, because without you I cannot live, from a perspective, it is almost like a declaration of I would commit suicide for not having you. We know that when somebody, a depressive person, loses someone and kills himself because of the person, what we know is that something that lies beneath the surface is not only having missed or lost a person, it is something that is not going very well in his life and that he needs help. So that's what my perspective of the words of the song are. Amazing song, of course, by Tata Nacho. Now, as in regards to the interpretation, once again, I feel that the song actually carries you on how it has to be sung. Then again, as we have said, and said in the past, and based on my interpretation that it is a very depressive person, one can take that as a baseline on how much voice, if you allow me to use that expression, how much voice you can use in here. So when you say Tengo nostalgia de ti, it has to be sung, like you're losing yourself, like you cannot stand it any longer. Tengo nostalgia de ti, and you say, amada mía, llevo tristeza en el. And if you notice here, when you say llevo tristeza en el alma, it is a succession of notes that is similar to the first phrase that we have said. So we start and we raise the notes and then we descend, and we have the same behavior here. Llevo tristeza en el alma, tenaz y cruel, hay una lágrima roja. And when you say, and please notice again that you have a similar succession of notes, ascending and then reaching top and then descending, even though they are not the exact same notes as in here. Of course, if someone wants to analyze and go deeper on how it was actually structured from a technical music perspective, of course you can study, go ahead, but that goes beyond the scope of this video, so that's why I'm not stopping myself and giving too much detail on that. But as you know, the succession of the notes that, and then you go again, and now you reach a higher because you say, en mi pobre corazón, sabes porque. And please notice something, that right after you have reached this one en mi pobre corazón, immediately after a very small pause, which of course you can finish or wrap this note earlier so that you have a much longer pause, either for the effect, because you can say en mi pobre corazón, then you, after the pause, when you're adding time, and then you go sabes porque, or you can go as it is written, en mi pobre corazón, sabes porque. In my perspective, giving just this pause here, this more small pause here, and gives more a sensation of like acelerando, because right, mi pobre corazón, small pause, sabes porque, But if you do it differently, it sounds more intimate, like more like you are singing from very inside your heart. Corazón, and then you make a pause. Sabes porque. And now that we have already reached the sabes porque, and it is very important to pause right before it, because as I was just sharing with you, most of people know the song because of this part, not as it starts with Tengo nostalgia de ti, but sabes por qué. This sabes por qué, I must have tried it, I don't know, 20 times, and I always tried it differently, because even though there is not any indication in here on whether we can increase the volume, like a forte, like a piano, diminish, crescendo, and then diminuendo, and all of that, even though we don't have those notes there, one has to think on how we can actually say it, like sabes por qué, and you notice besides having put less volume the second time, I also played a little on how I am pronouncing the each of the syllables. Let me do it again in full, like sabes por qué, and now do it like I think it should have been done, adding something from my understanding of the song. Sabes por qué. Like when you say por qué instead of por qué. It's not only a matter of volume or even having the note well tuned. It has to be on how you're actually transmitting the sensation of this phrase. When you say sabes por qué and your voice tends to diminish in volume, and also expressing that sorrow with a softer voice. Sabes por qué, mi dulce bien. And it has to be mi dulce bien. And you know why, my sweet love? Mi dulce bien is not a phrase of I love you. It's like a reproach, like you're telling the person you love. And you know why? And you know why, you, my very beloved, because without you, without your love, I cannot live anymore. It's sort of when you're trying to make someone feel bad, that's actually the sensation or the feeling that I think it wants to transmit. Sabes por qué, mi dulce bien, porque sin ti, sin tu cariño, porque sin ti, sin tu cariño, no sé vivir. And there is the same effect here. When you finish here in no sé vivir, and immediately you jump, and I am pretty sure that in my printed copy I have a note that says, afretándose, like go very fast to the repetition. Tengo una extraña amistad, and then the same notes repeat. Tengo una extraña amistad con la tristeza, y es ascending again. Y es mi sola compañera, la soledad. Es el llanto de mis ojos, más amargo que la hiel. And then again, when you say más amargo que la hiel, you go to the same effect of whether keeping the note and just a small pause, or you singing it like half the time of this red note, on this white note, and then you can choose to give more silence before you go to sabes por qué. And as we are almost running out of time, please let me go very quickly to the last part of the song, because in the repetition then you say porque sin ti, sin tu cariño, no sé vivir, because without you, without your love, I cannot live anymore, any longer. In the repetition, you say like, no sé. And that's where I did it like a dozen times differently. Because again, even though we don't have any notation here on whether we have to go to a crescendo and then wrap it up in a diminuendo, or keeping it up steady, or singing it in piano or double P or forte, fortissimo. So it resides on the interpreter, how he's going to actually do it. And the feeling or the sensation of doing it in different ways is different, because when you say no sé, like retenendo, you say no sé vivir. You say, you notice when you say and then you diminish for a second, vivir, or you can say vivir, but when you do it in full voice, from my perspective, even though it's more impressive, the song tends to sound more impressive. I think it loses a little this feeling of a depressive person who feels so lonely after having been left. The best, or the mix that I chose, of how to rap this song was Sin tu cariño no sé. A small pause. Keep it steady. And then you go to a diminuendo, so that you don't wrap it or you don't finish in full voice. From my perspective, that's the way I liked or I chose to do it. Then again, as I have explained in previous videos, my purpose here is not to convince anyone. Everybody is welcome to have his own understanding and interpretation of the song. Just sharing my own thoughts, and I really enjoyed this song. Hope you enjoyed it as well. And if you have a way of singing it yourself, of course, please do and share with everyone else. Thanks, and I hope to see you next time on a next postcard video. Bye bye.